they have to know it's a crime. They're geniuses. They have to know we cannot legally possess what we have. They're aware of the danger, and they're aware that what they have is probably illegal. So my question to you is, does that happen really legally? Like, do you see where someone commits a crime, but then they do something so helpful and extraordinary or great, or they committed that crime in service of something better that, it's kind of just like, well, we'll let you go on that.
Those arguments get made on a lesser level.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Doug Defense, the show where a real lawyer talks about fake things. I am Billy Business, and if there's something strange in your neighborhood, who are you going to call? Doug Ridley.
Wow.
You're lucky that your name fits the syllable pattern.
It works.
Yeah.
It works. But as I was prepping for the show, I mean, Do the kids these days still? I mean, if I was to say who you going to call, are they going to answer correctly?
My 5-year-old loves that. She loves the cartoon and the song, so she absolutely would.
Okay.
I think Ghostbusters has transcended to the next generation.
I mean, I literally cannot hear that without thinking Ghostbusters. I mean,
one and the same.
They did it. They did it. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. That's who you're going to call.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about 1984's Ghostbusters, starring Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Sigourney Weaver, and come on, Rick Moranis. Any movie with Rick Moranis should just be in the National Registry of Films and preserved, right, for future generations.
Especially, I mean, this is peak Rickness too, because I mean, he's just him as the accountant, and
he's very Moranis-y.
It's so great.
Yes, on the Moranis scale.
Yes. This is like an 11. On the Moranis scale,
which is a technical scientific thing.
We just made it.
We did.
I'm gonna trademark that.
But I do want to ask you. Okay, before we get into the legal stuff, because we are a legal show,
right.
We are going to talk about the legal stuff. But before we even start, I think it's important to your legal analysis. If I know the answer to this, do you believe in ghosts?
Oh my gosh, I am not really sure. I mean, is my real honest answer. I know that there are lots of things that can only be explained by ghosts or spirits or something along those lines.
Sure.
I'm not someone who's like, an unexpected drop in the thermal geographic the pressure or whatever. I mean, the sciencey explanation.
I would not do the show for you if that's how you talked the whole time. By the way, if you were someone that was like, no, well, the law says, I'd be like,
yeah.
No,
So I mean. Like we see in Ghostbusters, probably not. Also, like I don't know. I kind of have a different idea of afterlife, and I don't know that I want to like hang out here. I mean,
right.
So there's that.
Okay, so I will say, I don't know. I'm in the same boat. I don't know if I believe in ghosts. And I tend to lean more towards the probably not, because there would probably be like real physical evidence by this point. That being said.
Yeah, but we don't have flying cars yet either.
Yeah. But no. Hold on, don't lawyer me. That's an apples and oranges comparison. That's not a 1-to-1. We can't we probably could make a flying car, but there's just so many regulations, and is it cost effective, blah, 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 blah. No one has ever been like, here is literal proof of a spirit, like proof.
Right.
That being said, I'm still not going to like look in a mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times just in case. Just in case. I'm not so egotistical that I think that there's no chance.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Also, I will say, I might end up cutting this part out, but I was working for a Comic-Con circuit at the time, and we were in like Ohio, and it was Halloween. They're like, oh, we're going to have a big like one of the biggest Ouija board games at the same time. Like, I will not be anywhere near that convention center when you do this, and I am not bringing something home on a plane. No way. So maybe I do kind of believe in ghosts. Actually.
Yeah. But I mean, even I mean, I don't know. I think there's a difference between not tempting fate,
right? Yeah,
just in case.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What struck me though in watching this movie was what again for the show was just how much of that hit me at exactly the right time. We've talked about this on a lot of different episodes,
sure, yeah.
and certainly we know the ones that missed me completely because I'm grouchy about them. But this movie was made for 13-year-old boys,
sure,
which is exactly how old I was
when
in
it came out.
1984. So it was absolutely made for me. So every joke was funny. Sigourney Weaver ridiculously smoking hot the whole time,
yeah.
and like I mean,
oh yeah, if he's at his most Moranis-y, she is Sigourning so hard in this movie. Wow. Yeah, she is very Sigourning. But we are a legal show.
Yes.
So
yes.
I want to talk about the legal aspects of this. So let's start with, we've had a lot of chats recently, Terminator, Tron, about AI rights. Let's shift that now to ghosts, because the difference is we culturally or as a people understand that AI has never been alive. It's something that we created.
Right.
Ghosts theoretically had rights at one point. So
right.
Do your legal rights stop the minute you are declared dead?
Wow. The answer is I think if I'm going to
you have to.
And I'm
it's
going
the
to.
Show.
No, I know. Yes, they do, because, you think about rights to likenesses. We've talked
Sure.
about that a
Right.
few times. You think about contract rights that disappear. Contract with someone who has died is gone. So I mean, unless it applied to heirs and throughout the universe, like all of our good entertainment contracts do.
So then if someone dies, like right in my arms,
right?
Why can't I take their wallet? They're dead. Do they have the right to that wallet anymore?
They don't have the right to the wallet anymore, but their heirs do.
Okay.
So you're stealing from their kid. And why would you take a dead guy's wallet?
This is a hypothetical show.
Wow.
I say that I would do a lot of terrible things on this show to make a case study, and I would only actually do like 10% of them.
Well, let's ask. I'll be the asker then. Is this one of the ones that falls in the 10%?
Well, not now. Not that I know that I'm
Right.
stealing from a child.
Right.
I'm not a monster. I'm just a capitalist. All right. So speaking of capitalism, let's talk about the Ghostbusters as an organization, because they are essentially, I think, the joke of Ghostbusters.
The franchise rights alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams.
The point of Ghostbusters is that they are essentially like, what if ghost hunters were as common as plumbers, right?
Right.
They are blue-collar ghost busting service. But your plumber has to be licensed.
Right.
A contractor has to be licensed. What kind of license does a Ghostbuster need?
And that's a plot point, in the film, and there isn't something that they need to just be Ghostbusters.
So then, how is this not just like out and out fraud?
That is the argument by what's his face, Peck.
Right. So, okay, from a legal standpoint, if I set up shop tomorrow and say I will catch a ghost, and I don't know, I fart in a jar and it's just a bunch of air in a jar, I'm like, that's a ghost. I got it. That'll be $200. I can legally do all of this.
Well, then what happens is when they say $200,
right?
That's ridiculous. I refuse to pay it. Then you take your fart jar, like, okay, then I'll go ahead and release it back into the room. And then they will gladly pay you $200, and then you will move on. I mean, that was the question, and without taking this movie too seriously,
sure,
it was only when, ghosts started stealing hot dogs that we got to the level that, the mayor believed it was true and was calling in unconventional,
right.
And giving them legitimacy and whatever else. Up until that point, that was the allegation that they were committing fraud, that they were tricking these people, maybe giving them hallucinogenic gas or something along those lines to make them see stuff.
Let's assume for a minute, forget the movie.
Right.
Let's assume for a minute that's 100% what they were doing.
Right.
Just a fraud. Somehow you could prove it.
Yeah.
Now what are we looking at?
No, then you'd be looking at fraud. And that would be no different than folks who commit real estate fraud or prey on elderly folks by, trying to get their credit card information, or the people that hack computers, or put data up for ransom, and all of those things. It is the same kind of fraud, because you're taking money from somebody by false pretenses. So that would be fraud, and that is. And then on top of it, if they were actually giving them hallucinogenic gas, so they could honestly say that they saw a Slimer down the hall, then they're poisoning someone as well on top of it. So we've got, poisoning and fraud and a handful of those sorts of things. If we just assume that the whole thing is just
a sham.
Is a hoax from a spooky ghost.
I guess it's like...
Are you going to call?
Doug Ridley.
See,
I think you need to somehow get the rights to that song and make a whole commercial.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, you just take the profits from this show, right? Okay, so let's talk about this, because this is like a real world thing. We talked about this a little bit before we went on air. There are people out there who will... I can do a seance and I can contact your dead spirit and they can only talk to me and I'll tell you what they say. Essentially fortune tellers in a way. There was, especially in the 90s. Oh my God, that was like a huge... Miss Cleo was a huge business. How, are there regulations for these things? Because there's or is it just like, hey, if you're, stupid enough to give them your money, that's on you?
I haven't heard of a case where law enforcement got involved and tried to bust up one of those conventions. Mm-hmm. And I've been I went to a business convention once, and they decided to have a medium on as a speaker. And I excused myself because I didn't want to be a part of that room or a part of whatever was going on, because maybe it's real. I mean, the people that sit in those audiences swear that there's no way they could have known that Dad's favorite sandwich was, the quarter pounder with cheese, or whatever interesting detail, they lock in on that proves that they're not just making stuff up. And again, it probably goes back into our first answer about ghosts in general. Is I don't really know. I know that I have some very, very dear friends who take comfort in the idea that they could go and get a message from their deceased father or whatever. So the emotional aspect of it is so raw for some people. I worry, and the reason why I walked right the hell out when a business convention was having a medium speak was I don't want to sit there and watch someone potentially be taken advantage of.
Sure, yeah.
And if it actually is happening and somehow they are talking to the dead or something, gosh, why would you do that in a big auditorium? Or why would you do that in a big place like that? It just everything about that environment is something that makes me uncomfortable.
So just as like a case study, I go to one of these spirit people. They tell me that my dead grandma says this thing is going to happen to me. Doesn't happen. I come to you and I say I want to sue them because that clearly was, BS. Do I have a case? Do you think I would win?
No, I don't think you would. Let's say that again, we do this a lot. We rotate the lens just slightly to see if we can get a different perspective on it. I think that if let's say it was an elderly woman who had millions of dollars, a widow, right? And she had a medium who was giving her messages from her husband. Okay. And she was taking millions of dollars from like this elderly widow. Then I think you would be able to get into a case of like a financial elder abuse kind of a thing.
Why not the other way around? Would you just argue like, well, it's performance art. It's not meant to be taken seriously?
Well, and that's probably what they would argue.
Yeah.
I don't know if they sign liability waivers or anything along those lines because I don't know. For those of you who are out there and go to these things regularly, go ahead and pop in the comments. Do they make you sign? I don't know if they make you sign a thing. If there's some legal fine print that this is, like you said, like this is performance art. This is meant to be a show. This is meant to be pretend. Right. This is no different than the Magic Castle making cards disappear or something along those lines. But I definitely have seen prosecutors get angry about people that are being taken advantage of and attribute fraud into a situation like that.
Yeah.
And I've argued with prosecutors, going back to real estate fraud that I talked about before, there are some people who take advantage of folks who, have a property and might be hoarders, might be something along those lines, and they're going to flip the house for them or something along those lines.
Yeah.
There have been real estate fraud cases involving those sorts of situations that have been public in the news. So I think that would be the closest analogy to that, and probably the theory. It'd have to be really egregious, and I think if it's a $5 bill for like a reading, no way. If it's significant, then I could see a prosecutor getting angry enough to file something.
Okay, so now that we've spent a good amount of time farting into jars, now we can assume that ghosts are real and the Ghostbusters are operating at full integrity. I think I just invented the new jumping the shark. It's farting in the jar.
Okay. Wow.
When you're trying to con someone, right?
Well, we'll see if we can get that on the TeePublic store.
I don't know if I want to see the drawing of me farting in a jar.
Yeah.
Okay, so we brought up the PEC, the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yes.
So there are a lot of things here that could be potentially problematic. First and foremost, they catch these ghosts and they're storing them in these. I mean, they're awesome, but these little like, ghost cages.
Right.
I mean, I assume like the closest kind of thing would be like, I don't know, the SPCA or some sort of like the pound where, you take animal shelters.
Well, yeah.
In a way, because they're not killing them. They're just containing like a wild animal, essentially.
Them.
Like, what are the what are the rules? It's just like you can't just cage. If I am able to, I'm not. But if I was able to catch like a coyote in my backyard and cage it, like I can't just keep my own kind of animal shelter in my backyard, right?
No, because there's limits on what you can have. So coyote maybe not.
Right.
I had a case a while back where people had rabbits, and it got way out of control.
Okay.
Like hundreds of bunnies, hundreds of rabbits.
Yeah.
And and animal control got involved, and they're like, I mean, just swarms of rabbits on this property. And every time they thought that they had cleared out the rabbits, they left too. And then,
well, there's a reason why that saying exists, children.
Yes. But I'm just thinking about coyote is a little different because you're not allowed. You couldn't have a pet coyote. You can have a pet rabbit. So, but you
it's
still
not a
have
pet.
to.
I'm containing it for safety.
Right.
I mean, also, a coyote is not emitting crazy amounts of energy that we don't know if it's radioactive or not, like a ghost. Right. I mean, like, I guess, is this kind of all on Peck? Because he did not successfully shut this down. In fact, I think he shuts off their grid that gets everything. Is it not? Is it just all on him at the end of the day?
I think I would love to put it all on him at the end of the day because, I mean, him shutting down that grid is what allowed all the ghosts to escape. Right. So it's 100% on him. But he also had a court order.
Yeah.
So, most of the time when law enforcement does something, if they have a judge's signature behind them, then the reasonableness of their actions, gosh, a judge signed off on it. So, with Peck, I shut down the grid, but that's because the court order said that it was okay. So the idea that if a judge signed off on it, someone else signed off on it, that is going to shield Peck from some of the liability that he's going to have.
I mean, I would assume, like, ghosts aside, just they're dealing with a bunch of radioactive, huge energy things that they do not have permits for either storing it or disposing of it.
Right.
Like, what kind of trouble are you looking at even just from that kind of, like, yeah, the EPA comes in and he could shut it down, but I assume there's more involved than just shutting it down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's way more involved. I mean, and someone who creates a environmentally toxic site, with toxic chemicals or something along those lines, has a responsibility to clean it, has a responsibility to make it safe and remedy the situation. So they would have to deal with all of those elements. So there's two parts of this though, right? Part of it is whatever toxic, whatever that is coming off the Slimer or, whatever, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and is that toxic or is that, bio beneficial? I mean, who knows? Maybe it's like the best skin softener ever.
I have a feeling we talk about this a lot on this show. So go back to the Terminator episode for the genesis of this. But there's a bus, a very mysterious bus where if you invent something great or know something you shouldn't, you get on that bus and you never come back.
And they disappear, yeah.
I think the Ghostbusters maybe would get a ticket to that bus.
Maybe. No, I think they would. And so, I mean, there's the toxic chemical aspect of it, right? Or the noxious fumes or gases or whatever that are coming off the ghosts.
Right.
Which arguably they shouldn't be held responsible for because that exists in this world anyway, in this Ghostbuster world, right? So, but then we kind of have a Doc Brown situation here with, if each of them has a, unlicensed nuclear reactor on their back.
Their back. Oh my God, the amounts of cancer those characters have.
Well, and I challenge the idea that any of them had kids, but
Ghostbusters Afterlife is a lie.
That's fine. Just make them adopted. But truly, like the. It is a Doc Brown scenario, and if you haven't watched the Back to the Future episode, you should do that. We ended up having tons of conversation and a lot of online commentary about whether you're allowed to have plutonium or not.
Someone was like, "Of course you could have plutonium." It's like, dude. Okay.
The government's not going to tell me not to have plutonium.
Why don't you go ahead and give Doug a call today? Because you might.
Where is this list of things I'm not supposed to have? But so if it's on the list of things,
right?
You know, and I mean, how did they even get a nuclear reactor?
They're scientists.
Because of science.
Yeah,
because of MIT or wherever they were working.
Yeah, not important.
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked you at the beginning of the show if you believe in ghosts because I do feel like this is important for this conversation, which is the imprisonment of these ghosts. Now, like we said, AI never was alive. These things were. So first and foremost, do you think that there's any sort of 14th Amendment discussion about personhood to be had here? If we could prove, and I guess in this world they can, that these ghosts are there, they're real, they were people, places, things, whatever they are, at that point, do you think legally that their personhood continues even after their legal death?
I think it depends a lot on which ghost we're looking at. The first ghost that we see in the movie is a librarian.
Right.
It's just awesome.
Yeah, the library ghost is like the best part of that movie.
Yeah. That certainly appeared to be a person who had died.
Right.
You know, who arguably was a librarian, right? I mean, at least that's what we're designed to believe. Looking at Slimer, on the other hand, who is, has a face for sure, but is just this like ghoulish monstery, thing that, gobbles hot dogs and throws slime at people and gets angry and growls. It's unclear to me. Maybe somebody deep in the lore of, based on the cartoons or something along those lines will know, Slimer's backstory.
By the way, the cartoon lore is different than the movie lore, and it is wild.
Shocking.
The cartoons say that, Hollywood made a movie about us, so the movie exists in their world, but as like we didn't give them permission to make a movie. It's bonkers.
I learned that right now.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Our good friend Ken Knapsack did all the research a couple of years ago and told me about it. And I was just like, why are we making Ghostbusters so complicated? I digress.
Okay.
So ghosts.
Capturing ghosts, imprisoning ghosts.
False imprisonment. If they're people.
Yeah.
Right?
So, I mean, if it's me and I don't know, I guess I'm here because I'm lost or confused or something or whatever, right? And somebody puts me in a shoebox with a bunch of lights around it and stuff, I'm going to be pissed off. And I think I'm right to be. So, but then the question is, what's the remedy? Is their personhood lower somehow because they don't have a physical body versus not?
Are there levels of personhood?
There aren't.
Legally? No?
I mean, not now.
I feel like, no, we're not having this discussion, but with AI, I feel like we're going to have to somehow.
Eventually we are. Eventually we'll have that discussion about AI. But, I believe that all people are created equal and that personhood is equal across the board. Not everyone on the internet agrees with that. But and you can cut that out if you want, or leave it in if you want. I'm good with it either way, but, no, we don't have levels of personhood. We have personhood.
Okay.
Right. And so, but if we're going to say that someone is falsely imprisoning your grandma's spirit,
yes,
then we have to grant some legal rights for that.
What's like the punishment for false imprisonment?
For false imprisonment?
Typically.
If you're doing it just for for false imprisonment purposes and no other intent, no other ugly intent.
How would there be no other intent?
Well, I mean, in this show...
okay, so hold on. I'm not talking about like, a Walmart employee unlawfully detained you because they thought you were shoplifting. I'm talking about like somebody has a cage in their house and locked you in there.
Right, and locked you in there.
Yeah.
If somebody locked you in a cage, it's a long state prison sentence. Oftentimes that comes wrapped up with a kidnapping charge as well if they're actually moved to a more dangerous location, which is defined by case law and all of those things. So the false imprisonment and kidnapping and all of those things, and kidnapping would apply as well in the Ghostbusters scenario if we're talking about the ghosts, because especially like Slimer.
But they're trespassing.
Well,
could you argue for the Ghostbusters that they're like a citizen's arrest almost?
Right.
If we're granting personhood, yeah, these ghosts
are trespassing.
Yeah,
all of them are trespassing, because if they're friendly ghosts, like in
vandalizing,
like in Beetlejuice, that are welcome in the attic,
right?
That's different than the ghost that is eating the buffet. Theft,
vandalizing,
right?
I would assume if you leave behind your goo.
Generally speaking,
if I leave my goo behind somewhere, I'm going to get
you are generally speaking. If you leave behind your goo, it's a crime. Generally speaking,
legally.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's a great question, Billy, because flipping it on its head, if we're going to grant personhood to ghosts, and if we're going to say that they can be the victims of false imprisonment, then they also have to be subject to the laws the other way around, where they're guilty of trespassing and vandalism and scaring people and
scaring people is a crime.
Well, it depends on how you scare them.
If I run up to you on the street behind you, I don't touch you.
Right.
I don't even I get within, let's say, 5 feet.
Right.
I just scream, boo, crime. Look, Halloween is upon us, so I feel like this is very important to know.
Tricks or treats.
Yeah. I scare you and you have a tachycardia or worse, heart attack.
Right. Oh my gosh. Is scaring somebody illegal? Saying boo is probably not. But we have talked on the show before.
Yeah.
That saying I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And if I'm threatening you with great bodily injury or death with the apparent ability to do so, and it makes you afraid, now, yes, those words do count as a crime.
I'm not
it's
saying,
a threat.
I'm saying
it's a criminal
boo.
threat.
I'm saying boo.
I know. Boo is probably okay.
And I wave my boo, like, and you just have a heart attack. That's not my fault, right? I didn't shove bacon down your throat for 30 years.
Oh my God, you broke me. You broke me on boo.
The people need to know before they go trick or treat.
Right,
I mean, they make you, not all of them, but some of those like haunted houses, even when they don't touch you, they still make you like signs.
And some haunted houses aren't even licensed and or have city permits or anything like that. There's all kinds of liability for those.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. If someone yells boo and accidentally kills someone, will you take that case? Should they call you?
I will take. Okay. I will absolutely take that case. We will call it the case of the boo.
Okay, as we're talking about personhood in these ghosts and the rules going both way, let's address the elephant in the room. There's a very odd part of this movie in the montage.
There is.
Of, how do I say this in a YouTube-friendly way? A ghost who is with Ray.
Yes.
And she gets intimate with him.
Yes, I think that is a good, fair, romantic with him.
Now, it's a montage, so we don't know if there was dialogue that was said in between other things like, I consent to all of this happening. Go forth, ghost. But are we talking necrophilia or for him? Or are we talking assault for her?
If we have granted personhood to ghosts and ghosts did something romantic with somebody without their permission, then then that's a crime. Yeah. And if someone is having a romantic relationship with a ghost, it's hard to say whether that's necrophilia, because necrophilia is focused on the physical remains of a person,
sure,
not necessarily the spirit
the
of a person.
Right.
And here's the other thing too. I mean, it's a fantastic hypothetical. It's unclear in the movie whether he's dreaming that or whether it actually happens.
There's nothing to me that suggests that this is not actually happening within this world.
Well, okay.
But I would guess with the necrophilia thing that any time that pops up legally, that's going to be some sort of like mental illness or like that doesn't strike me as something that's going to like someone well within their mind is going to be charged with.
No. Well, it's yucky and it's desecrating a body, and we don't want that. But if it's just spirit,
then, and if we've granted them personhood, then I guess that's off the table.
Right.
Okay.
And I would say, friends at home, don't be very, very careful with your search terms if you start looking into any of the things we just talked about.
I would actually just leave the discussion here. I don't think you need to look up anything past this.
No. Your search history is discoverable.
Okay, so let's talk. I mean, this is sometimes like the least interesting thing to talk about, which is property damage. Like, I feel like we hit it a lot in like Batman Begins and Superman and stuff. But the interesting thing about this now comes down to liability, where Batman and to a certain extent Superman, I mean, Batman for sure, vigilante. No one asked him to go do what he did. And he destroyed a whole lot of stuff doing it. It was good, but no one asked him to do that. The Ghostbusters are a hired team, so this is a job. So property damage wise, is this just all on the city of New York? Like, are the Ghostbusters liable at all for anything they do at this point?
Well, they're a private company, and if they've been hired by the people and they had a really good lawyer dealing with the now, obviously, we've said before, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I don't do a bunch of contract law, but I could absolutely write up a contract that would say, yeah, there could be damages, there could be smells, there could be things left behind, there could be radioactive fallout. I mean, you know, the list of things that they're going to wave away in the in contract is going to be way more than, you know, what you would sign if the plumber comes over.
I mean, the other interesting thing about this is that the Ghostbusters, whether they know it or not, are actually the ones that get to decide how bad the form of Gozer is going to be, and he chooses a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Right.
So, I mean, first of all, could you even prove that Ray was the one that, because like, is Ray on the hook for this? He's the one that imagined it into life.
I think if we're going to assume that it's all real, then we have to assume that Ray's responsible. I think I would want Ray to be responsible for the form of Gozer, because or the Herald of Gozer or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, he's got to be responsible for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit too about Dana Sigourney Weaver.
Yes.
So towards the end, her and Rick Moranis, they're possessed by Zool or whatever it is.
There's no Dana, only Zool.
Yes. Is she liable for anything she does while under the influence of Zool?
No. No. I mean, we know that I have a soft spot for cool clients, and I will defend her Sigourneying all day long.
You're gonna Sigourn this one from start to finish. I get it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But no, I mean, somebody who's not in their right mind, just even if it's not completely possessed by somebody else, is not going to be held responsible for what they're doing. We'll you know, there are lots of different times that we excuse behavior that's inappropriate because someone has a mental illness or is under the influence of something or whatever is going on. But then, you layer on top of it, we've asked the question the other way around, like on our fantastic Freaky Friday episode, we decided that whoever was in charge of the body is the person who's responsible. So we say the spirit, Zool is the one that's responsible for what's going on, not Dana.
Sure.
So, yeah.
It seems though like, okay, I'm just kind of thinking in my head, like, because the Ghostbusters, they're just a company.
Right.
And we've said that they were hired and that everything that they do is kind of like, well, New York, the city of New York authorized that they paid for it. But they would have been shut down before they ever got started, really, with the nuclear stuff, right?
I would think so.
Right.
I mean, I think if somebody figured out how to make a nuclear reactor in their garage, they're either on the government bus, disappeared because they're brilliant, or the state regulators, law enforcement, all of the above will say, no, you're not allowed to have that because it runs on plutonium, and you're in the same way that Doc Brown can't have a plutonium fueled time machine, So I if it is a nuclear reactor, then they're gonna shut them down right then and there, assuming that they know. Now, the other thing too is that this is very clearly experimental tech. This is very clearly things that, Peck, when he first comes in, is asking questions like, how does this work? What's going on? What's happening? They're not out there advertising that they're carrying around nuclear reactors.
No, but they know they have to know it's a crime. They're geniuses. They have to know we cannot legally possess what we have.
They have to know that, and they know that it's dangerous because they take a step back in the elevator and
they say don't cross the streams. Like, they're aware of the danger, and they're aware that what they have is probably illegal. So my question to you is, and I see this a lot in movies, and I've always wondered, like, if this would actually really happen. They do save New York more than once, because Ghostbusters 2, like they do these amazing, great things, but they also have broken the law. And a lot of times in movies, they're like, well, you did the bad thing, but you did such a good thing that we're just going to forget about the bad thing.
Yeah.
Does that happen really legally? Like, do you see where someone commits a crime, but then they do something so helpful and extraordinary or great, or they committed that crime in service of something better that, it's kind of just like, well, we'll let you go on that. Yeah,
those arguments get made on a lesser level on a regular basis.
Okay.
When I was a prosecutor and I was reviewing cases to make filing decisions, it would matter to me if somebody was a war hero, if somebody was a veteran, if someone was a firefighter, if someone was, a hero. Something like that would come into play when we're making decisions on cases. I argue all the time that my clients have done all of this good stuff in the world, and that's one of the reasons why they deserve a second chance on a case.
Yeah.
So making those arguments definitely happens, on a lesser degree. I mean, think for a second. I mean, this isn't as fun and funny, but I mean, if one of those backpacks had blown up and it was really a nuclear reactor and it took out half of Manhattan, this isn't funny anymore. The other aspect of this that I think is interesting is the fact that by the end, the mayor is telling them after being encouraged to save the lives of millions of registered voters, to what do you need? What resources do you need? And they call out every single police car, every single fire engine, SWAT, the Army, the National Guard, like everybody to come out and help these four guys, defeat a marshmallow. But at that point, they've been. There's an argument there that they've been deputized and that they're a part of the government, and that so now now that the government is helping them bust the ghosts, then that gives them an additional level of authority and immunity, and they're more like a firefighter that would break down a door than they are an exterminator who would poison an entire house. I'm just thinking two polar opposites.
All right, let's get to some fan questions, because there's a couple here that we haven't talked about yet that I think are really interesting. Austin asks, if one of the Ghostbusters got slimed on the job, which I think they all do at some point, could they file a workers' comp claim, or is ectoplasmic exposure just an assumed workplace hazard?
What was that last sentence again?
Could they?
No. Just starting with ectoplasmic.
Ectoplasmic exposure, is it an assumed workplace hazard?
Oh, I think that Austin just really wanted to write that sentence. Ectoplasmic exposure. It's not specifically covered under workers' comp law, but yes, a workplace incident like that would be workers' comp. It would be a workers' comp claim. But according to the show, the movie, all it does really is make them feel funky. So I don't know that there would be any level of real damage from being slimed, other than feeling funky for a while.
Can you sue someone for they made you feel funky?
I don't think so.
No,
I think you should say thank you and move on.
Okay. Here's an interesting spin on what we've been talking about. Tanya asks, do the Ghostbusters have to pay taxes on captured ghosts? Like, are they considered inventory, or is this considered a service?
Ooh, interesting. So are they collecting things? I mean, we just kind of brought up an exterminator, and they're not really exterminating the ghosts, right? Because they're holding on to the ghosts. Does the false imprisonment of ghosts in the world of Ghostbusters mean that they have an inventory that could be monetized?
We don't know what the end game was for what they were going to do with all
these
ghosts,
I mean that was the problem, is that they had an ectoplasmic Twinkie that was just about to explode, right? So I mean, whether it's inventory and whether they'd have to pay taxes on the inventory, I don't know that they would. I'm trying to think of a real world example, because generally speaking, exterminators will take the pests that they exterminate and they don't keep them, as far as we know.
Yeah, I don't know what they do with that.
Well, I think who knows? So maybe it's the same. Maybe there's just lots of pests that are kept in ectoplasmic safe cages somewhere in the middle of the city.
That sounds like a Netflix documentary just waiting to happen. Okay, I love this question. This one is from Tim. Could the Ghostbusters be charged with impersonating law enforcement because they use sirens, they have badges, they respond to emergencies?
So
the Ecto one does kind of look like a police car. I mean, with the sirens and stuff.
Police car or hearse, one way or another.
Sure, but I mean, if you were just kind of like a mile down the road and saw the lights, you would pull over to the right, thinking it was,
thinking it was some sort of an emergency vehicle. Yeah. So the law, there are very specific laws about this, about the colors that you're allowed to have on flashing lights on your vehicle, the colors you're allowed to have down below, all over the vehicle. So if it was a red and blue combination, they would be breaking a law, and they would be stopped for impersonating a police officer for sure. I'm trying to remember. I think it was just a blue light that went around, if I remember correctly. I'm
getting it confused with my daughter loves the cartoons. So we watch that a lot. So I'm like, I think it might be different in the cartoon, but I can't remember.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it depends really on the color and the tone and everything else. Different police cars and different emergency vehicles have different tones and different colors on the lights and all of those things. So I think that no one is going to confuse the Ecto 1 with an actual police vehicle or an actual government service vehicle. And if they do, well, I would defend them by saying it's so clearly not a government vehicle. Do you see the ghost on the side? Like, do you see the ghost on the side of the thing? Like, this is pretty clearly not government.
This is interesting. This goes a little bit back to our inappropriate ghost discussion. Oh, no. Steven asks, if Dana was possessed and kissed Venkman, would that be considered assault on his part because he knew she wasn't in control?
Oh, maybe. Yeah. I mean, we absolutely punish people who take advantage of someone who's in a situation where they can't consent over what's happening with their bodies.
Yeah.
So, if something, if they had a romantic night together, then Dana could absolutely press charges against Peter for an assault. A kiss, probably not. Arguably, I think Dana's issue is with Zool at that point. She seems to be the aggressor. Zool seems to be the aggressor in those sorts of situations. So, yeah, I think at best it's just a simple battery, but even with that, it's so confusing. It's hard to think of the real world example.
Yeah. I'll read this one. You tell me if this makes sense to you, okay?
Okay.
Lisa asks, if someone died because they didn't call the Ghostbusters, could they sue, or could the team be sued for refusing service in an emergency? I assume it's kind of like, that kind of ties into what we just talked about, where it's like, but they're not emergency services, so it's not like they have an obligation to.
Right. And
but if they're the only ones that can stop a ghost,
But then on the other hand, there are lots of instances where emergency personnel gets caught up and doesn't arrive on time,
right?
Or arrive early enough to stop something from happening or to save someone's life or any. I mean, they obviously do that the correct way all the time,
right?
But I don't even think that you could get law enforcement, firefighters, medical personnel in trouble for that. So no, I don't think you could assign that same level of liability to the Ghostbusters. Now, on the other hand, if I'm representing the person who they decided that they were too busy to come and stop, and something really serious happened, there is an argument there that maybe they relied on the representation of the Ghostbusters, that they were on their way or something like that. But like I said, you'd have to show it was just pure negligence, and it would be very difficult to do that.
This last one comes from Chris. I think we've talked about this aspect before, but let's bring it up again. If thousands of ghosts were freed when the grid blew, could New York City residents file a class action lawsuit for emotional trauma? Now, emotional damages in court, I feel like sometimes people have the wrong idea about emotional damage and that kind of stuff.
They do. People think because there is something that's called a negligent or an intentional infliction of emotional distress. And every first-year law student out there gets so excited about hearing about this. And, intentional infliction of emotional distress. But the reality is, in the real legal world, that no attorney is going to sue somebody just because they went up and said, boo, and gave them intentional emotional distress by saying boo.
You better watch out for me on Halloween this year, baby.
I'm saying. So, it's a thing where, again, damages can just be that in a very, very technical law school book kind of hypothetical fact pattern. But in the real world, no one is going to get actually sued for just intending emotional distress.
Yeah.
Now, if they took out, if Stay Puft took out, a building and all those people lost their homes or something along those lines, and we can track that to the city, that's no different than cities or electric companies being held liable for fires and mudslides.
Yeah.
So, I have very good friends that do really good work, with those sorts of things. So, if they could go back and track both the Ghostbusters and the city of New York liable for Stay Puft, then arguably there's a class action claim there, but not just for emotional.
All right. Let's get to the end here. Peter Venkman, creator, arguably co-creator of the Ghostbusters franchise. So he potential assault if he knows that Dana is compromised. Plus having nuclear devices. Are you going to defend him in court?
No, I'm not going to defend Peter. I think back, we didn't end up talking about this, but I think back to the opening scene with him with at the cards. With the cards at the school. He's just a creepo. There's just no way around that. And no, I'm not.
He's like one of those like quote unquote charming 80s creepos.
Right. Charming 80s professor creepos.
Sure. So Ray, for potentially thinking up the entire Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and just being, he's imprisoning ghosts with the rest of them.
True.
Yeah.
Ray is a likable character though, and Ray seems to be coming at all of this from out of all of them has like the biggest heart and the biggest best intentions, and is a excited science guy,
right?
But also seems to be feel remorse even for thinking of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's the perfect monster for him to create. I would absolutely defend him just because he is such a likable person. I think that that would track and that would carry through.
What about Egon? He's the one that creates these nuclear devices, so we have to assume he's in possession of probably some stuff he's not supposed to have. Plus, he's the one that creates the cages. So if we do decide that these ghosts are sentient and they have personhood, then he is falsely imprisoning them, and he's responsible for what, for putting it all together.
Yeah. I mean, there's big difference between a roach motel versus the glowy shoebox. I think I like the science aspect of it. I like the I like the idea of defending him based upon his genius and contributions to mankind and society and all of those sorts of things.
All right, Dana. She's under the influence, essentially.
Right.
Involuntary acts of whatever destruction or whatever you want to say.
Ghosthood.
Yeah. You gonna take her case?
Of course I'm gonna defend Dana.
Why not? You're gonna Sigourn so hard after this episode's over.
For sure.
Okay, last but certainly not least, Slimer. For vandalism, theft, leaving his goo everywhere.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to defend Slimer.
Groundbreaking case.
Groundbreaking case. I think the defense of Slimer is that he doesn't know enough about what he's doing. So I think I would characterize Slimer as, like a slobbering dog rather than, a person who's intentionally leaving their goo everywhere.
I feel like the cartoon has him be kind of like half and half, like half slobbering dog, like a Scooby-Doo almost, you know, like a little bit of intelligence, but
well, and then that changes things a bit, because if he's the Scooby-Doo equivalent, then Scooby is arguably almost as smart as Shaggy. So there's that.
We got to do Scooby-Doo on this show.
Why haven't we done that yet?
I don't know.
Maybe we're gonna have to.
A bunch of kids who aren't deputized going in crime scenes.
Right.
Lots of problems.
So many problems. So as far as defending Slimer, yes, I'm gonna focus on the slobbering dog angle and prove that.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I think the most important takeaway from today is that I could just scream boo at anyone who's not looking, and I have no consequences.
When I was thinking about this show, I was not thinking that boo was going to be the thing. I was thinking it was going to be, like a little bit more like Ghostbusters dance move from the cassette tape.
I like to keep you on your toes.
I appreciate it.
And we like to keep you on your toes so you can go back and watch all the episodes that we've referenced, the Terminator, Back to the Future. All of them are available right here on the Doug Defense, whether you're on the podcast feed, which thank you for listening, or if you're here on YouTube, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Tell all your friends, because that's how we grow, and we love growing with you. Doug, thank you so much. Happy Halloween, my friend.
Absolutely. Where do these stairs go? They go up.
I knew he was going to try to slip in a quote. So he diarrhea texted me Ghostbusters quotes till 11:30 last night. Doug, you're an American classic. Don't change. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next week.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.